Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Today's video is going to be part 2 in the massive book haul that I'm filming, or the massive book haul series that I'm filming. If you haven't seen my previous book haul, then don't worry, you're not required to watch that one before you watch this one. But basically what happened is I had a huge amount of books to haul about a month ago and couldn't fit them all in the same video, so I decided to do a part 2 like a little bit later on. And so that's what this is. And actually, I have a confession. I'm going to have to make a part 3 because there's more than I thought. My last book haul was basically all the books that I bought within 2022. Since then, since a month ago, I bought / received so many books I actually need to make a third part. So this is not the last installment of this video. There will be another one coming probably in a month or two. I hope you guys don't mind all the book hauls. I know that people love to watch them, so hopefully you're okay with that. I've got many books to mention, about 20. I need to start reading, you know, I need to like get reading so we can actually get through some of these. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get on the video and start before I'm here for literally like 45 minutes. So first book I have to mention is actually one that I should have mentioned in my previous one, but I forgot about it. Maybe that's because I've already read it, or I didn't really think of it as like a new addition to my books because I read it like immediately as soon as I got it. Moveable Feast by Ernest Hemingway. So I actually bought this book to read in Paris. I went to Paris in August. I'll link the video up here and down below, whatever. I wanted a book that was either translated from French or set in Paris, and so I chose Hemingway's Moveable Feast. This is a book I've always wanted to read. I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It's just magical. It's basically a memoir of his time spent there, various little moments across those years. This is not a review, so I'm not going to go into it, but it was a really good book and I really do recommend reading it in Paris, because if not, you're going to want to go there as soon as you finished it / like after page 1. So yeah, that was the first book. I definitely want to read more of his work, if not all of it. Next up, I have 2 books to mention, and these are ones that I bought in America. So the final book of my previous book haul was The Idiot by Ellie, one of my favorite books of last year, but it also was a book that I bought in America. For some reason I decided to split last haul and this haul in the middle of that trip, so I've still got 2 more books to mention from that trip. Again, the vlog from that trip will be, how many times when I say that trip? The vlog from that, my travels, will be linked down below on the screen if I can fit all the cards up there with all the videos I'm going to link. If it's not up in the card, then it will definitely be down below. Basically, when I went to America, I wanted books that had stunning covers that I preferred the American covers of rather than the UK covers, because obviously I could have just bought it over here for like a cheaper price if I preferred the UK cover. So I didn't want to get anything over there that I could get here. So the first book that I got was The Women Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. So this is a beautiful cover. It's so striking. I think it's wonderful. I love how these are kind of written in like a felt tip. I think it's so cool. But yeah, this is a collection of 3 short stories. There's this amazing thing on the back. In 1929, she became the youngest person ever to obtain the agrégation in philosophy at the Sorbonne, placing second on the exam only to Jean-Paul Sartre, which is just, you know, kind of tells you how immensely intelligent this woman was. I've heard amazing things about this collection. I literally haven't seen any negative reviews. Like I said, I wanted to get my hands on this cover, so I did pick that up in the Strand. Yes, it was the Strand, because I got The Idiot in just a Barnes & Noble. And then the other book that I bought in the Strand, it's actually still got the receipt in it, but that is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel, Garcia, Marquez. This is obviously a classic book, and I could have got a billion different editions of it. I saw Emma from the channel Emmy read this edition, and I just thought it was so gorgeous, and I've always wanted to read this book. It's a Colombian classic. It's got lots of magical realism elements in it, which is what I'm a little bit put off by, but I've heard amazing things from people who I love and adore, so this could be a fun one. I definitely want to get to it within this year or next year. We'll see. Next book is a very different tone. I think Gabriel Garcia Marquez would laugh if he saw what was coming next. Either that or he'd cry. This is a book that I've already read actually, and that is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I read this in January. You can see my full thoughts in my January wrap up, which will be coming at the end of the month. This is basically like a hate to love, brother's best friend romance. It is adult. There's a lot of spice in this. It was an interesting one. Part of a 4-book series, and I definitely want to read at least the like 2nd book, which is Twisted Games, because I've heard that people tend to enjoy that one more. That was this. Stay tuned if you want to hear my thoughts. And then the next book I have is another romance, Confess by Colleen Hoover. So this is my first coho book. I know there's a lot in the news, or just in the like book world, about coho at the moment. Obviously that ridiculous colouring book thing, which I can't even begin to get into because I was just so, you know, that, yeah, no. And then there's been some other things that have come up. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be reading more than just this one book. I might be a little bit more selective with what I pick up from her, just so I'm not recommending things to you that may possibly have the power to hurt people. It's this romance that's like centered around art. The male lead in it is an artist, and what he does is he gets people to send in their confessions, and he creates art based on their confession. And so there's actually like a whole section in the middle of this where there are photographs of his art, which I think is awesome. I don't know, I'm not expecting fantastic things, but you know, it can only be terrible. And then the next book I have to mention, My Brilliant Friend by Elena, Ferrante. My mum actually read this book months ago and she loved it. And it's so funny because it's actually become really popular on Bookstagram. My mum was ahead of the trend. This is a bestseller anyways. Following two girls in Italy, their friendship kind of across many years, I believe. I don't know a lot about this, but I trust my mum's recommendation and I trust various people on Bookstagram to give my recommendation as well. And I found this gorgeous new edition, which I think is lovely. Next book I have to mention is one that I found in the works, but I actually had this like little bonding moment with an old lady working in the shop that she loved the cover and she was asking me what it was about. We had this whole little conversation. It honestly just made my day. Love her. Shout out to her. Anyway, this is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This cover is very cute. I agree with her. This is a slow burn, hate to love, I assume. I mean, everything is, isn't it? I'm kind of over that trope already, so that's going to be good. This girl who is a twin, her sister lives in a small town but has got a terrible reputation. Her sister says like, oh, I really need to see you desperately. So they meet up. Overnight the sister runs away and she actually leaves her daughter, so the main character's niece, with the main character. So that our main character is kind of forced to look after this child, try and find out where her sister's gone in this small town where everyone hates the sister. So because they're twins, everyone thinks the sister is her. So the whole town hates her, even though they have no reason to. That would sound like a really complicated synopsis, I'm sorry. But I basically heard of this book that even though it's like 500 pages, it doesn't feel like it when you're reading it. So I'm hoping that will be the case for me. I've heard either like 3-star reviews for this or like 5/ like I wish I could give it 6-star reviews. So yeah, we'll see how I feel about it. Another romance, and this one is absolutely massive on Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTube, the entire book internet world. And this is a book I bought for myself to congratulate myself for getting my little Christmas temp job because it's really spenny. So this is Addicted to You by Christa and Becca Ritchie. This book actually cost me about £13, which is literally disgusting. I had to get like the American edition and like, you know, because there's no UK edition, I don't think. But yeah, this is the special edition exclusive bonus material, so it's got extra chapters at the end and also like a bunch of text message threads, which is fun. This series is so beloved by everyone. It's got found family in it, which is one of my favorite things to read about, and that found family is actually compared to the Avatar like Inner Circle, which is one of my favorite things ever. So why do I speak like that? So I think I could really enjoy this. It just feels amazing, like worth the £13 already having read it. I've actually heard that this first book isn't brilliant, but the books just get better and better in the series like as you go along. The next book I have to mention is another romance, but it's a very different vibe from the previous romances I've been mentioning, and that is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. So eventually I want to have read all of Jane Austen's work, at least to have 6 like major novels. I'm currently collecting them in these vintage classics editions. I think they're so cute, they're stunning. This is what they all look like. So currently I only have Northanger Abbey, and then now I've got Sense and Sensibility, but I do want to get the rest like I said. The reason why I bought Sense and Sensibility over the other ones was because I actually found this book in TK Maxx. They started stocking way more books than they used to, so this was a discounted price. How much were these books originally? £7.99. I think we paid £6 for this, so like it was only a minor difference, but yeah. So I'm not sure when I'm going to get to it, but next time I feel like a Jane Austen, this will probably be the one, or Northanger Abbey. We'll see, depending on the time of year. If I decide to pick up an Austen like spring, summer, it'll be this one. If it's in like autumn, winter, it'll probably be Northanger Abbey. Another book I found in TK Maxx, and another kind of iconic classic written by a woman, is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So I have actually already read this book. I did an Instagram post, which you can see here, in which I showed my absolutely tragic copy of my Penguin Black Classic, Penguin Black Spine Classic edition. Black Spine, what is it called? I don't know. Of Jane Eyre, which she's been through it basically. I studied that book for English A-level, and it is honestly like top 3 books of all time. So I really wanted to reread this book, annotate it, and have an edition that I can actually take out in public and people won't be giving it sad stares. And I also own Wuthering Heights in this Penguin English Library edition. So I wanted to get all the Bronte sisters works in these editions because I think they're so beautiful. We're excited to reread this at some point. I definitely am due a reread because I haven't read this book since I was 18. So I'd love to see what I think now. Next up I have an entire series to mention. So basically I found the entire Caraval series in the works for a really decent price. So I found Caraval, Legendary, and then Finale. I don't have Caraval with me because I'm actually selling it. It's up on my Depop if anyone wants to buy it, because I already own the first book in this series, but I've been meaning to get the sequel, and it made more sense within the deal to buy the entire trilogy than just to buy these 2 books separately from elsewhere. Caraval was actually in my 2023 TBR video, books I want to get into in 2023, because I want to reread that one before I can get into these ones, because I haven't read Caraval since 2018 and I think I'm due a reread in order to catch up with these. I love these covers. The spines are a bit of an eyesore, but we get past it, it's alright. And I love Caraval at the time. I gave it 4.5 stars, so I'm excited to get into the rest of the series. It's about these 2 sisters who go to circus and they kind of discover that things are not as they seem. It's a beautiful, magical world. It's very dark. It's great romance in it. It's just like a 10 out of 10 series, basically. Well, the first book is. We will see how I feel about these 2. So the final 4 books I have to mention are ones that I found as arcs, actually. So as I said previously, I did a Christmas temp job in a bookstore. One day they had this thing where they were kind of restructuring the way that they gave out arcs. So if you didn't know, booksellers get advanced reader copies of books so that they can read them and then promote them when they come out in store. But they changed their system, so they basically wanted to clear out all of the arcs they had. So they had this big bookcase full of books, like absolutely jam-packed, and you could kind of go in and like see if you wanted to take anything, and then you just take it for free. Even though it was Christmas time, I was invited to join in. So I found 4 books, like I said. Some of these are just absolute like gems, and I can't believe I found them. First book is one I'd never heard of actually, but it's The Yellow Kitchen by Margot Villarron. I presume it's French. This says Expectation meets Julie and Julia. The Yellow Kitchen is a brilliant exploration of food, belonging and friendship. At the time I did think this would have references to the yellow wallpaper because the title is just like too similar, but it is about women, so I think it could be parallels between that. But either way, I love cooking. I actually am a qualified chef, definitely like very familiar with the food world, and I thought that this would be like interesting either way. It's a short little book and I'll let you guys know what I think. Right, next up I found this book called Tangleroot Palace and Other Stories by Marjorie. I'd heard of this author. I instantly just like was drawn to it, and then there's a headache across my nose. That's why my nose was like itching so much. Basically a collection of short stories, and they're all to do with kind of fantasy and like fairy tales. I really like short story collections. I think they're super underrated. And then the final 2 books I have to mention are super exciting. So after I'd found those 2, I was kind of scouring through the shelves and didn't have a lot of time. They were like layers in this bookshelf. At the back of the shelf, glittering in the distance, I was like, oh my goodness, because I found The Atlas Paradox by Olivie Blake. So this is the sequel to The Atlas 6, which is a massive book. Like, it absolutely went viral, particularly on TikTok, but people just went mad for it, and I think it's such a beautiful arc. There's so much silver foiling on it. Obviously this arc is limited edition, but there are actually like a finite number of proofs, and there were only 200, and I got a copy 191. Fingers crossed I really enjoyed the first book because this would be such a lovely thing to have on my shelves. And then the final book I found was several days later, and I just snatched this up immediately because, again, struck gold. This is another TikTok favorite, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, a YA murder mystery about this girl who's doing her APQ, which is basically like an extra qualification you can take in British schools, and she decides to do it on a cold case because she has theories about that case. Quite dark and whatever, but it is a YA, so I think it shouldn't be too scary. I'm really excited to finally give this book a go because this is, again, like another really famous book that I've never read. So those are all the books that I decided to mention in part 2 of this giant book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to stick around, see part 3 of this video. Like I said, I'll link part 1 down below if you are still on your book haul grind and you want to watch some more. I'll see you guys next time, which will be in a couple of days, for another video. Bye.